Hello friends, welcome to another episode, welcome to another video. Yesterday we did a video na nikawambia I'm going to come back with another video explaining how Kenya was colonized, or Africa in general, how we were colonized and why did they even colonize us. But before we dive into that, there's something maybe we need to understand. I told you guys I did history in high school, but sikuwa very much interested. Niliwambia ndio niliperform the least. I had a B-, so it wasn't my favorite subject, but mostly naweza sema it's because tulikuwa tunafunzwa history za America, Europe, Russia. We didn't learn our African history like per se, and it is that is just by design. So now we want to dive into colonialism, how Kenya was colonized, how they came in, how they made us to waliingiaje in our homeland, and the modern day colonialism, because I told you in the previous video, we are so colonized we actually don't know it. This weekend the main character was Power. I don't remember his name. Maybe I'm going to insert his picture here. I hope I don't forget. And he came to Kenya last weekend, and people were all over, he was trending all over. But what we don't realize is alikuja Tatu City, amenda ka lounge a section of Tatu City penye no black person is allowed. Yani it's Orania in Kiambu. And we are celebrating these people, but they are wanakuja wanafungua places zenye no non-white ataweza kuingia, not even an Indian, no African ataweza kuingia those sections in our land, in Central Mau land. But anyway, so let's dive into it, and maybe I should explain something. When I was reading about this, nikajiuliza, but I thought slave trade ili happen in 1600s. Like slave trade ili happen in 1600, and we all know that all the slaves are from Africa, right? Because they were black, and during that time, the only continent that had black people, I told you guys we are not black, we are brown, but the only continent that had black people was Africa. So I asked myself, how come walikujia slaves in the 1600s? And of course it was by force, it was forcefully, ilikuwa ku break families. All of us tunajua how slave trade was. At kama hauna idea, you can guess how bad it was. So nikajiuliza, how come they took slaves in the 1600, and the scramble for Africa happened in the late 1800s, like 1880, 1890s. How come tuliwalao tena wakuja in our lands again? So I had to dive into it, na nikapata when the Portuguese, unajua Portuguese walikuwa explorers were oceans and the sea, the waters. When the Portuguese walikuwa na do their rounds, wakapatana na this continent now Africa, yenye iko very rich, iko na very good climate, iko na all the resources, iko na wildlife, iko na nini, iko na people who are not very much educated, because for them they were very much advanced even before slave trade, right? Sasa kumbe when the Portuguese came, wakaona that there is this land, blah blah blah, there's Africa and there's potential there. So they went back and spread the word that kuna this continent yenye nini. So now kwa sababu tunajua majority of the people who are participating in slave trade ilikuwa watu wa western, with the western country, Europe and America, right? Sasa when of course Europe, America wako on our left side, like the west side, not left, the west side of Africa. So the slave trade ili affect majorly West Africa. Like majority of the slave trade ili happen in West Africa. Part of it, small part of it in Central Africa, small part in Central Africa, but majority of the slave trade ilikuwa in West Africa, because that is where it's near the European countries. So for Kenya, we were not familiar. We were not familiar with these people. It was our first time seeing a white man. So I need you to understand that. It is our first time seeing this white man mwenye walikuwa wamekuja in the name of missionaries, and you know, no, those things. But now it is our first time, it is the first time that our ancestors wanaona these people in their full potential. So I need you to understand that. I don't want you to blame our ancestors. I don't want you to think how stupid, how dumb they were. Generally, as Africans, we are very loving people. It's only in Africa that tutapatana watu kwa barabara wambie hi, sasa ukwaje, how's your day, at work. It's, you know, but in Europe you rarely say hi to anyone. I have never been there, but I've seen people say it online. So generally I want you to understand that we are good people, so that's why we didn't see the, you know, something wrong with whatever they were happening. So now that we are up to there, like I said, in the 1880s, 1890s, that is where the scramble for Africa happened. Scramble for Africa, for those who don't know, the colonizers now, British, Portuguese, French, all those people, the colonizers now. In the late 1890s ama in the late 1800s ndio walikuwa na scramble for Africa. Scramble for Africa ni mse kusema this country is mine, this region is mine, literally scramble, like kuchukua. Unaona vile if umekiwa fruits pale unaambiwa go take fruits tukiwa high school, the way we would scramble for it, that is the same way. So such a bad thing to do. Like imagine it's a whole country and then kuna mtu anakuja anasema by the way, that country is mine, that country is mine. Really? But anyway, so in the 1870, now in the late 1800s, ikakuwa European Union ndio ilikuwa majority of the occupants, ama au ndio walikuwa declare majority of the places as their territory. So that's why wakakuwa na Berlin Conference. Berlin Conference ni yenye those colonizers walipatana wakadiscuss na wakaambia Europe, hapana, you can't be this selfish, you must leave some for us, you can't take the whole of Africa, you must leave some for us. So na that's why wakajipata, now they had to actually choose which part they really want and forgo some parts, because Europe ndio walikuwa wamechukua almost 70% of Africa. So they had to leave some for Germany, some for French, some for, yeah. So now in the 1895, so in 1895 ndio British declare that East Africa is their territory. Like mtu asiende East Africa, nisha book your place. Now Kenya is part of East Africa, so automatically we fell into the British colonial time. So when they came via the Mombasa port. They came as traders. They were selling bracelets, they were selling sheets, they were selling blankets, they were selling beads, and in return they wanted elephant tusks, they wanted wool, they wanted, like, it was just barter trade. So when they came in the name of barter trade. They didn't come in the name of violence. No one was fighting for them. They had protection, but they could not, wao si wenye walikuwa wana initiate violence. Unless they are attacked, they could not attack kwa sababu walikuwa na security. Now those people who came to do this, the trade, the barter trade, so they didn't come, they came very peacefully. Wakapatana na the high chief hiyo time, I think high chief sasa tunaweza muita the president. Like currently kulikuwa na chief elders na kulikuwa na village elders na kulikuwa na chiefs and kings, but the high chief alikuwa anaitwa Wayaki Wahiga. Sitaki kumuita na English twang because I'm a Murima babe, so nafaa nitamke vizuri, Wayaki Wahiga. So Wayaki Wahiga ni yeye wakakuja, they had discussions na those white people. Is it even right to use this language? I don't even know, guys. But anyway, so the Wayaki Wahiga came, aka have discussion na the British, wacha tuwaite British, aka have discussion at the British, and they agreed it's okay, we can do barter trade, because all of them benefit in that. So after they did for some few years, now they wakafanya Wayaki Wahiga akuwe collaborator wao. Like awambia, we are going to give you this and this and this, we are going to give you protection, we are going to give you more riches, more, you know, vile tu tunawajua, they will approach you with money that you can't refuse. And during that time ilikuwa tu they are going to approach you with resources you can't refuse. So Wayaki Wahiga became a collaborator, so he allowed them to come here and settle here. After they settled, now after they have wamepimia, wameona what the environment is like, where can we take, wametour the whole of Kenya, you know, because already for them wako advanced technological wise. It's the 1900s. Sahi tuko 1900s. In the 1900s, US was so advanced, Europe was so advanced. They had cars, they had planes, they had industries, they had weapons, they had already, they were so advanced. So they came, wakatua the whole of Kenya, wakaona how much unoccupied land there is, kwa sababu remember during that time ilikuwa communal land, so ilikuwa like this section of people, mko like 500 of you maybe in a village, and then this whole land is yours. Hakuna land ya mtu, hiyo time hawako amedivide land, kwa sababu hiyo time kila mtu alikuwa anaishi communally, na that's what they came and used, divide and conquer. So wakakuja wakaona so much land was unoccupied, and ndio wa test if they truly can take this land. What they did is remember wanajifanya bado wanafanya barter trade, so they went to Mount Kenya. Truly their best region was Mount Kenya. Mount Kenya ni central, wacha hata niache kusema central, their best land ilikuwa central. So walienda central in Kiambu, wakachukua, they came with carts. Carts ni hizi mikokoteni, during that time mikokoteni kubwa. They came with carts, wakapewa chakula ya 3 months. They took, hata sikupewa, they took chakula ya 3 months, like potatoes, cabbages, fruits, vegetables, like wakachukua chakula ya 3 months, maize, beans, anything that was food. Wakachukua chakula ya 3 months, mingi hivyo 3 months, na that village haiku notice. The village did not notice that some part of their food has gone missing. That is how much food those people had. That is how much food Kiambu ilikuwa ina produce. Murang'a, Nyeri, that was their best selling, you know, places. So anyway, after wakaona hivyo, so they decided to take land by force. They didn't care about human life or even livestock. So that is where now, after they have settled in, wamepewa collaborators na Wayaki Wahiga, now they started to take over. Now this is where the murders and the killings and the, I hope I can use this language online. I hope I can. I don't know if I can. When they started to take land, of course, Wayaki Wahiga had to disappear mysteriously. He died mysteriously, and no one has ever known what nini happened to him, but we can all guess what happened to him. So this is for this section, enye nawambia data and figures, allow me to refer to my notes so that I can be as accurate as I can. So in May 1905 in Sotik, mnajua ni Rift Valley na huko, 92 people were killed, 2,000 cattle were stolen, 3,000 sheep and goat were stolen, and during this time walitumia 14,000 rounds ammunition. Rounds ni easy, 14,000. 92 people were killed in 1905 in Sotik. So they took that land, they took their cattle, they took their sheep, and they killed people. In September 1905 in Kisii, 100 people were killed, 3,000 cattle were captured. In January 1906 in Nandi, 1,100 people were killed, 16,000 cattle were stolen, 36,000 sheep and goats were captured. Unaona zinaenda zikiongezea. We started with 92 killed, then Kisii they killed 100, then in Nandi they killed 1,100. Then in January 1908 they went back to Kisii. They killed 200 people. They took 7,000 sheep and 5,000 goats. So you can tell like they were unajua hizi sheep and goats nimeambia ilikuwa communal place. So wakichukua 16,000 sheep and goats. 16,000, that's so much. Hiyo ni mingi sana in one village. Remember, these are villages. They're invading villages. They're taking 3,000 sheep. That too, hizo ni mingi. Honestly, that's too much. Hizo ni mingi. After there were so many killings, Winston Churchill, kila mtu anajua ni president, akasema there is no way we are going to kill these people, like to kill everyone. If we are going to take land and their land, if we kill them all, then we are not going to have labor to do our work. So tuache kuwaua, let's just invade them without so much killings. So they were told to stop and plan to prosper. Okay, remember during this time wakikuja ku invade village, wana invade village, they burn down your huts. They would burn down huts, and they would also leave kama wameburn banana plantations. So in Central, majority of it ilikuwa wanakuja wana burn your huts and your banana plantations. You can imagine the shock on people during that time. Remember, there is no means of communication. It's only smoke and messengers, and you can imagine the unrest the people had during that time. And remember, these people ni watu wenye they don't have firearms. All they have is arrows. But unajua, if you have a knife, hata kuna musician alisema kaleta usilete kisu kwenye vita ya. So yeah, so of course they had to be walishindwa tu, and they had to wakakubali. After Winston Churchill amewaambia we have to stop killing people for labor, we have to plan for the future. So they came and occupied from Turkana to Kisii to Taita to Kikuyu to Akamba to Meru. They occupied everywhere, to Kisii to Nandi. But in kwa this process wakaona that the best region ilikuwa in Central Kenya. So they came, majority of them wakasettle in Kiambu. After they settled in Kiambu, and then wakapata the people in Central Kenya ni watu wako willing to work. They are very much willing to work and to learn their language, and they are very friendly. Hawafight, they are just very friendly. So that is why majority of them wakasettle in Kiambu, and they took people as their workers, and the people were just willing to work. And yeah, because sasa mmeshanyang'anywa shamba yenu, mmeshaambiwa what to do, the government imeshakuwa taken over, there is no longer high chief. So by 1906, 1908, the Kenya was ilikuwa imeshachukuliwa so much land. So in 1906 wakachukua 1 million acres of land. 1 million acres of land went to the British people, and by 1916 5 million acres in addition went to the British people. Million. I want you to underline the word million acres. 1 million acres in 1906, and in 1916 an additional 5 million acres of land. You see how much land was ilikuwa uninhabited. So much land. So wakachukua their land, and now after wameshakuwa settled in, now it's the 1920s. They're very comfortable here, wameanza kuishi peacefully na watu, because watu wameshakubali tumeshindwa, we have to be their slaves anyway. So wakaanza ku advertise this new country. So they would advertise kwa newspaper, and they would advertise to watu wenye wako in the western countries, in Europe and in the US. What they would say is, welcome to this new country that is very fertile. Number one, wanasema labor is cheap. Wanasema kuna minerals, kuna wildlife, the climate is perfect, because Africa has very good climate. We don't have snow seasons. Ati tunakaa 3 months yenye tuko negative degrees, ama tunakaa another additional 6 months. You know, summer is like 6 months yenye iko extremely hot, like 32 degrees, 33, 35 degrees. I think the highest yenye tumeenda sisi, it is 30, na imekuja last year and this year only. after the immoral president ameingia kwa president yake. So they would advertise this great country yenye wanasema labor is cheap, you can always come, iko close to the oceans, wako na very good climate, their lands are fertile, kuna so much land, and actually wanasema all you need to do is pay a certain amount of money in dollars, ndio pia watoto wako wataweza kuinherit your land. Na ukishanunua land in Kenya, your children wataweza kuinherit that land. Mind you, this land they have not bought it, they have just taken it by force, taken it by killing people, the indigenous people of that land. So ukishangaa kwa nini kuna watu wenye ni British ama whites and they own land in Kenya, that is how they came to own, because their forefathers came and took land, and so now the grandparents, the grandchildren waka inherit that land. So that is how they basically came and conquered, and after that wakaanza kutafuta collaborators ni watu wenye ni indigenous wa huku, they could speak our language and they could walikuwa naweza kutranslate what they are being told, wakafunzwa English, wakafunzwa how to translate, and they would work in the main house, ama they became police, wakakuwa kwa police stations. So those collaborators wote ndio walichukuliwa your time, they were given land at wao, they were given privileges, and yeah, so that is how basically they invaded our country. I don't know if I should continue in this video to tell you now the revolution, ama how Mau Mau came to be, or maybe it should be in another video. But basically that is how it used to be during this time. So many crime happened, like women would be raped. If you had a beautiful woman, mlikuwa mnasimama mahali mbele, anakuja anachaguliwa, anapelekwa, atalala kwa police station na hao collaborators, or if a white person likes them so much, alingepelekwa kwake kwa nyumba. So that is basically how bad it was. If you are a man and your wife has been picked, there's nothing you could have done. You just had to sit down and kubali, like bibi yako amechukuliwa, atarudi kesho asubuhi. So horrible, so horrible. So anyway guys, tomorrow I'm coming to do another video. Let's make this a series. Tomorrow I'll come and do another video yenye sasa inaonyeshana how people now started to rebel up to Mau Mau and how we gained independence. And that time, it was such a dark time for Kenyans. Ignore the invasion kwa sababu ilikuwa abrupt. But now after kukana hawa watu na realize no, we can't stay like this, mwanze ku rebel. So much happened. I really feel so bad for our grandparents and our forefathers, because they went through so much. You see what we are seeing right now, abductions? This was nothing. This is nothing compared to that one. They would be abducted in daylight, they would be beaten up to, some of them would die, others would be beaten until their legs break, others would be beaten until they can't now start hearing, others would be beaten until they become paralyzed, others would be tortured. It was such a horrible time. And the fact that these people have never acknowledged that they did this to us and apologize and actually leave our land and give back our land, we must not accept it. And also as Kenyans, I want you to understand that colonialism is still happening, and it happens economic colonialism. Now it's slave trade. Tumerudi kwa slave trade, kupelekwa the Middle East countries. That is basically slave trade. Actually, I saw somewhere there's an Alibaba kind of thing, like a Jumia, like an online platform where wasichana wenye wametoka Africa wanakuwa advertising those apps, wanauzwa ka house help. Like they would say she's young, she's 22, she's from this country, she's she's young, so she can work for so many hours. We must not accept it. We must not accept this. Our forefathers refused it, and we must also refuse this and actually take back our land completely. Like, to make sure if we are not equals, then step aside. We can't be having the same cycles every century. Now tumeshatoka 1900s, now to go in the 21st century, and we are still going through the same thing. We must not accept this. So anyway, guys, I love right now I love reading these things. And yeah, tomorrow I'll come with another video to show you now how they started to live with each other and how the Mau Mau revolution started. And yeah, I hope you're going to enjoy this series. Please remember to subscribe if you haven't. You can send this video to someone. Remember, subscribing is free. It's not gonna cost you anything. Thank you for watching up to now. You can always support me using this number, and I will always appreciate, because I need to also maintain this platform. So have a lovely time, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye. Mwah.